Love it, love it. So interesting. Hey guys, well, welcome to First Fridays. You're going to see us using the mics today. We simulcast this out live for anybody that couldn't join us. Also recorded and lives online if you want to share this with anybody. So, Christina Moffat, I'm the Director of Small Business Resources here at the Partnership. So, I want to welcome you to our facility. Thanks for braving downtown and the construction and finding a place to park and being here. We appreciate you joining us, and we love co-hosting these with the Women's Business Center. I'm a female entrepreneur myself, so we truly appreciate you investing time to hear stories from our female entrepreneurs. And Claudia and I have been great friends for a long time, so I'm so excited she's here today and donating her journey and her time to be with us. Little information on the table. We have our summit coming up this November, so we have the save the dates out for that. And then we also do a series called Top 5 for Small Business. Our next one is coming up the end of June, so if you have employees, it's top 5 things to have in your handbook. We do those as well, kind of same format. You can watch online or you can join us in person. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Amy and Claudia and let them take it away.
Thank you so much. And the summit that Christina was telling you guys about, is it November? November, really great summit. It's a full day. You will get so much great, phenomenal information out of it. And there's a ton of other resource partners on site. So certainly something to consider. Well, I'm Amy Hutchins, and I'm the program manager at the Iowa Women's Business Center. And the Iowa Women's Business Center is a program of Iowa Center for Economic Success. So you have all sorts of flyers and goodies on the table that kind of tell you a little bit more about the Iowa Center, but super quick, we have 4 primary areas that we work to serve. One is we are a VITA site, so we offer free tax preparation and planning throughout the year. The Iowa Women's Business Center, which is the only women's business center in Iowa funded by the SBA, and we at the Women's Business Center primarily focus on programming and education. So Christina just mentioned their top 5, which I believe are Wednesdays over the noon hour, and then we sort of complement each other with our topical Tuesdays, which are pretty much every other Tuesday in the evening time. So whatever hours work best for folks. Our next topical Tuesday is this coming Tuesday, and Justin Akers from the SBDC will be there to talk about succession planning for your business. And then later this same month, Lynn Schrader will be there talking about what they don't tell you about buying a business. So they'll both be pretty enlightening. Well, I am thrilled to be here today with Claudia. Claudia and I we actually met through the Iowa Center before I was a part of the Women's Business Center because we were taking their Dream Builder course, which is a business planning course. So Dream Builders can often attract new entrepreneurs that are just getting ready to start their entrepreneurial journey, or someone that's a little more seasoned like Claudia, who kind of took it as a, hey, refresher. Let me kind of make sure that I've got my plan in a good place and that I feel secure in my business endeavors moving forward. So I'm certainly thrilled to be here with you today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored. I'm so honored that you came.
Right? It still shocks people. It still shocks people sitting up here like, wow.
Yes.
I have people here for me today.
We even have to bribe you. That's wonderful.
Well, so we're just going to kick things off today, and I really would love, Claudia, for you to just start and first tell people just about your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, my business is not a seasoned business, Amy. Thank you for the credit.
It's more seasoned than some.
More seasoned than some who are still incubating that idea, right? I have been in business for 18 months, and it has been such a great ride. It has been fun because I have plenty of stretch goals. But let me tell you about the business first. I have been in this area of diversity and inclusion and helping businesses provide an environment where people like you and me can thrive, not only survive, for about 15 years. And about, as I mentioned, 2 years ago, the courage to take this next step came about because I was very passionate about continuing to do what I was doing for my previous employers, which was Principal Financial Group and DuPont. And my business today is structured in a way that is, for me, very simple. Is I offer education and training, customized training for employers that want to understand how to build an inclusive environment. Or I also help them do an assessment of what their environment looks like. And then finally, a strategy. If you want to go from point A to point B, here's the roadmap. And it's been fun because I am able to help businesses that have a small number of employees to a large number of employees. And the challenges are similar, but the way we tackle them are quite different because it depends on the infrastructure and the business goals.
So you mentioned, I heard the word courage in there,
Yes.
sort of right off the bat there, when you said you had the courage to
Yes.
sort of step away
Yes.
on your own. So what were some of the happenings or occurrences along the way? One, to even put that idea in your mind that you wanted to go off on your own, and then two, that, you know, what was that point where you just said, I'm going to do it?
Yes, well, it took a long time. It didn't happen overnight, let me tell you. I think I have been thinking about this idea for about 7 years. And I think everything happened because I had a health event happening in my life that made me reflect on my mortality. And I thought, if something happens to me tomorrow, would I be satisfied? Would I have done everything that I could have done? Would I have lived to my potential? And the answer was consistently no, no, and no. So I decided that I would then challenge myself. But if you have been through a health event like I did, we don't want to rush into making major life decisions. So I waited. And throughout that journey, I started to just gravitating towards literature or things that would continue to nudge me in that direction. And finally, when DuPont was going through a merger, during that whole process, and if you have gone through a merger with your employers, it's a very stressful time. And I think all of us were wondering, do I want to go through this process or not? And one day I remembered vividly, I woke up in the middle of the night, I sat in bed, and I told myself, oh, I'm going to quit. And I went back to sleep. And I woke up and I told my spouse, Brad Schabel, I said, Brad, I'm going to quit. And he said, good for you. So I follow up with my leader and I said, you know you're going to have to make some staff decisions very soon. I wanted to raise my hand and put my name on that list because it would save the job of someone who was willing to stay. And it was the kick that I needed to just get things going. But it didn't stop there because immediately, what did I do? I went to option A, which was to continue to do what I was doing for an employer. So I started looking at jobs, and I even got a job offer from the Mayo Clinic. Thought about moving to Rochester, Minnesota, because I love the Mayo Clinic. And Brad again said, aren't you going too fast? Don't you think you should pause? So I hit the pause button, and then I went to Europe for a while on my own, and I started to do other things just for fun. All I wanted to do when I was working, to be honest with you, was to read for pleasure. And I did that for a few months. And then quickly after that, a partner, a consulting firm here in town, heard that I was available to do a training. And I did one training on mitigating unconscious bias for this employer. And then quickly after that, I had four other options or employers that wanted to do the same training. And then I thought, might as well formalize this. And that's how I started.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
You talked a little bit about the support that you had at home.
Yes.
I'm sure some people were thinking, okay, you wake up, you tell your spouse the next day, I'm going to quit. In your case, he said, great. I think in other cases, the husband or wife kind of looks at them and says, huh? Like what? Talk to me about this. How are you going to make money? What are you going to do? Talk about a little bit about the just importance of having that support at home when you start this type of journey.
Even today, when I am running around and I have this long to-do list, Brad is still asking, is there anything I can do for you? He has a background in HR, he has a background in affirmative action and all of those things, so he gets what I do. And it's great to be able to count with his support, but also his help. So it's been, I think, one of the most important things, to be honest with you, because if he wasn't supportive, I wouldn't give myself the freedom to be doing what I'm doing right now. Maybe I would have waited 10 more years. Who knows? I also have to say that it's really unique and individual to each one of our own financial situation, right? Brett and I did not have a mortgage. We don't have kids. We didn't have tuition payments to make. So we felt that we're pretty free to take that first step. Not to imply that you have to be just like us, but I think that also gave us peace of mind.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you, going back even a little bit further, you're a native of Brazil.
Yes.
And then
Can't you tell my southern accent?
it's very. I'm going to remember that one. Do you think that your transition, you know, from Brazil here sort of guided you to where you are today and what you're doing today professionally?
Yes, yes. The short answer is yes. But like consulting, I didn't know I was going to end up doing that. When I was born in Brazil and lived in Brazil until I was 17 years old. When I was 17 years old, my family, so my mom, my dad, my twin sister, and my
That's
brother.
a new learning for me.
Is that right?
Yeah.
She's here today. It's her.
Oh, I'm like,
We play games. Sorry. I made you a second guess. Is this really Claudia? Well, we're identical twins, so sometimes you might see Carla, you might think, oh, you got a haircut. It's not me, it's Carla. And I have a brother, and his name is Felipe. So we all went to Japan, and when we went to Japan, the purpose was to work, and I worked in a factory for 5 years. And the whole purpose was we're gonna go to Japan, save money, go back to Brazil. And I ended up meeting Brad in Japan, and that took me in a little detour. And I ended up here in Iowa 18 years ago. So Iowa is my home. It has been my home for 18 years, and I love living here. Like any place, it's not perfect, but I will love, and I love being part of the solution. So that's why I choose to be here.
well, and in your case, you know, some determine to leave the career that they've had for the last
Yes.
20, 25 years and do something completely different.
Yes.
In your case, you stuck along the same professional path to some extent that you
Yes.
had been sort of brought up on
Yes.
professionally.
Yes.
I imagine, though, there were still some learnings and hiccups along the way.
Absolutely.
Would you mind sharing a couple of experiences during that transition?
In the transition, you mean just from
Corporate America
corporate to now?
Mm-hmm.
Sure thing. So when I started working in this area of diversity and inclusion, it used to be within the Department of Human Resources. Some companies have it under maybe the CEO or some other departments, which I highly encourage, by the way. And it was a learning curve for me because I was coming from a nonprofit background. I went to Drake University and graduated with an international relations degree. So my idea of diversity and inclusion was more global in countries and policies versus the individual grassroots domestic level that we have here in the workplace. Here in the US, we talk more about race, we talk more about sexual orientation and the degree of the individual. And international relations is really about breaking barriers around culture and how we can get along globally. In any case, so that transition alone was different, and it was a learning curve because I had to then tweak my brain to think differently about diversity and inclusion. And now, transitioning from the corporate environment to being a consultant and a business owner, it is really about maximizing what I know, but continue to learn. So balancing the time that I have to do three things. Continue to learn so I'm not stale. That's my major fear.
And can you pause there or transition there just a little bit and talk about what you do as a business owner to continue that education?
Absolutely. So I'm constantly researching. I'm constantly reading books. I'm constantly keeping up with what is happening. And the news has been a great source of inspiration as well. You must have seen some of the news that are keeping us aware of what's going on. And I'm talking about some recent developments. I won't name employers, but
yeah,
yes.
Googling.
So just keeping up with what's going on and putting into perspective for my clients, it has been a huge asset for them because most of the time I had at work was really to do work. It wasn't to learn or to add to what I knew. So I always had this desire to be keeping up with research, studies, case studies, and now I
have the time
I didn't have the
before.
time. Now I make the time to do that. And then part of my work is also business development, which takes a big chunk of my time. But then it's actually doing the work. It's going to the client, delivering what I promised, working through some issues, and adjusting as much as possible.
So I think, we hear that a lot about individuals that go off on their own when they're starting off literally on their own, and you are business development, and you are research, and you are the one executing and doing. How have you balanced that to date? And then what are your thoughts moving into the future in terms of bringing additional support on?
Oh, yes. I think one of the first things I learned quickly was that if I wanted to scale my business, if I wanted to grow, I needed help, and I needed to put money where my mouth was. It's not enough just to say, oh, I want to be a big business, and not to make that investment. So all the money I made last year, which was a very good year for me, I put back into the business. And one of the first things I did was I hired a virtual assistant. For the first time, have an intern for the summer, and I have a web developer and a marketing strategist, which I'm excited about.
What about I have a lot of people that even come into the women's business and are asking about virtual assistants.
Yes.
Will you talk about your experience?
Sure.
And
So it's been
maybe even
great.
explain what that is?
Yes, absolutely. So there are business owners that specialized on providing services that align with the virtual assistant's skill sets, but they can specialize as well. So for instance, project management, it can be graphic design, it can be all sorts of things, but it falls under that just umbrella of virtual assistants services. So there are agencies that have all these contractors that work for them, and depending on the project that you need, they're going to match you with that person with that skill set. So I work with someone who has a variety of different skill sets. So doing the video interview series that I did in February, she did all the technology, all the behind the scenes things that she needed to do that I didn't want to learn. She handled it, and it was such a relief, because having to learn everything every day, one, I didn't have the time, and it can be exhausting. So you have to hire other people. You have to let them do what they do best.
And what was your moment when you realized you did have to put money?
Yeah.
Did you get overwhelmed one day and you just thought, I can't do this on my own? And then even when you decide to make that decision, how do you decide you can afford it?
Yes, I'm pragmatic. So I looked ahead and I knew what I wanted to do. And I understood that since I don't know what it entails, I don't think I will have the patience or the time to find out. So I prefer to just delegate than to have to get in there and then halfway realize this is so hard. This is too much. So I just wanted to be pragmatic and bite the bullet and do it.
So when you are looking, so right now, last we chatted, no direct employees, true?
No, except for my intern.
Except for your intern. What are some of the things that you look for in these individuals that you're talking to and bringing on? Because I'm sure part of it too is you think about the onboarding process and having to educate them over and over again, on your business. What are things you do to prepare for new individuals that you might have engaging with your business, and then ensuring that you get the right fit?
Yes. So I'll tell you that my virtual assistant was a learning curve for her, because she had never heard about what I did. So it was interesting to me to find that out.
I mean, just in general, work that you...
No. I put this video interview series together, and I focused on diversity and inclusion leaders or diversity and inclusion practitioners that I used to follow, that I look up to, and she didn't even know what that actually meant. I had to educate her, and that was an eye-opening for me. Eye-opener because I was under the impression that people already knew what that meant. So she helped me actually get the title appealing enough for people like her. So her perspective was crucial, very critical.
Outside perspective.
For me, because I was living in my own little world, and she, not knowing what I did, she brought that in, and that's how I ended up choosing the theme, how I positioned this whole thing about the video interview series.
What about the topic of accounting and managing your books? And
Yeah.
is that something that you still take on?
No. No. I shouldn't. Shouldn't trust me. From the beginning, being pragmatic, I knew that I would want to start the business, one, with a roadmap. So the first thing I did was to go to the center, and I talked to Amelia Lobo. Maybe some of you know Amelia Lobo. She used to work at the center, and I had a conversation with her, and I said, what do I need? What kind of checklist? And the first thing that she told me was, well, you need to do paperwork and blah, blah, blah. So I looked for an attorney and an accountant, and I pay them to do all of that because, again, I didn't want to have to learn. I was busy. I was busy already.
From the
Things
beginning.
to do.
Yeah.
So, and I enjoyed doing that because, again, I believe in paying people their worth. I believe in supporting other people. I believe letting people do what they do best versus having to learn everything. It can be so overwhelming, and you can do it wrong at the end of the day. And to me, those are very important topics to mess it up. So I did those two things. And then quickly after that, I wanted to make sure that I had the right pillars for the business development or just the structure. So that's when I went to the Dream Builder project.
Yes,
and
that was
program,
last summer.
which was last summer.
Yeah.
And that's how we met, which was great. I recommend, if any of you are considering opening a business, or if you have a business, this is an excellent opportunity to meet other business owners.
So
Did I answer your question? Because I think I got sidetracked.
Yeah, we just talking about when and where you decided to outsource some of your
Yes.
work, and
Yeah, so-
obviously you see a value
Oh,
in doing that.
absolutely. And the more experienced I become as a business owner, more adamant I am about paying other people. Because you have to save the time that you have to do the things that you're really good at. And one of those things for me is business development. I really enjoy business development. I think it's always exciting. And I learned so much from it. And because I'm such a small business owner, people know me. They wouldn't know anyone else. So I don't have a sales force behind me. I don't have a sales team. It's just me.
It's you. So how are you going about your sales role a little bit?
Yeah.
I personally know that you're a member of NABO.
Yes.
Maybe talk a little bit about how you chose along the way which organizations to sort of buy into, because most of them do cost money, and the value that you get out of being a member of some of these organizations.
It's tremendous. So let me just preface by saying I believe in spending money to make money. Some of you might not agree with me, but I believe that. So my first year was sort of a free for all, go everywhere, try everything, and not really know what metrics to measure to see if there was a return on my investment. And after the first year, so at the beginning of this year, I said, I'm not going to be looking for more opportunities other than the ones I have explored. So last year, I explored NABO, I explored different organizations.
Which is for those that might not know, NABO is the National Association of Women Business Owners.
Yeah, it's an excellent organization. And in fact, when I was thinking about joining NABO, it was towards the end of the year, and I had already thought, maybe I'm already involved with too many organizations. So I decided that I would go to the national conference to calibrate my expectations and see if this is actually a good match. And I was blown away. It's an excellent organization, and that's when I decided to join right there on the spot. I continue to have urges to join different organizations, but I'm much more controlled now.
Are there other organizations that you spend your time with?
Yes, they are. I am a new member of FemCity. I Rotary Club. I am, wow, it's not coming to me, but I have a lot of different diverse networks that I am always exchanging ideas or opportunities. I love to collaborate.
It's nice to surround yourself
Oh,
with that.
yes.
So some of the other benefits for folks that might be considering joining a different organization, why do you feel it's worth the return?
Oh, goodness. Where do I start? First of all, it can be a lonely road. If you are in a corporate world and surrounded by colleagues and people with different skill sets, and again, I know that I don't know everything, and I don't know what I don't know. So I know that I have blind spots, and I need to surround myself with people that have a complete different experience, skill sets. It's all about the diversity. So because of that, I try not to isolate myself. And those organizations provide me with that, not only the exposure to those different people, but also to learn from them. Because a lot of those organizations, they serve as a mentor. The people share information, they share opportunities, and it's been wonderful.
What about how you just simply maintain your daily motivation? What do you continue to do to stay somewhat sane in your business when things get rough? Is it girlfriends? Is it, we have a lot say it's just staying that physical activity? What's your sort of go-to on any given day when you just need an out?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that I believe I'm the best boss I have ever had. Can't go wrong with that.
So you
I
just tell
just
your
say
boss
I'm
you need
taking
some
the day
time
off. Okay. I give myself freedom to do what I think is right when I need to. And I have been thinking a lot about burnout. And I think burnout is a fear, a real fear, because sometimes we go so fast and so hard for such a long time, and then you don't have the energy to do what you need to do. So I'm a bit more cautious now, but I do allow myself freedom to do things that I think I need to do. So Friday mornings, for instance, I block Friday mornings. I have a trainer that I see every Friday morning, and that's my time. Unless I have a conflict that a client needs that time, then I switch around. But most often, I have that time for myself.
That's great. What do you feel personally you possess from a characteristic perspective?
Yes.
That has helped you be able to tackle the world of entrepreneurship on your own?
Yes.
Some of your strengths, even identifying weaknesses.
Yes, well, that's a great question. I always admired business owners. It's been such an interesting pattern, because I remember when Christina and I were part of a group, and she stood in front of us and told us about her business. Remember, Christina, when you're making the cupcakes in your kitchen and then you had that big order with the Bravo Gala? Remember? It inspired me. To this day, inspired me. So I'm always inspired by other people's journeys and stories. And I feel so motivated when I hear that so-and-so was able to accomplish this because they overcame an obstacle or because they did something differently. So I think just those success stories just make me move forward and continue to do so. In terms of characteristics, I can talk to the wall for many, many hours, and I wouldn't even notice it's not talking back. So I don't have trouble making new friends, and I love meeting people, meeting their needs, and being curious. But more importantly, I really, really believe in what I do. And I'm so eager to take that out there in the world and help people solve some of those issues that they have in their workplaces, issues that most of us experience. You know, the microaggressions, the micro inequities, the opportunities that you think you should have and you don't have because maybe the system is not designed to allow you to partake because there isn't equity. And I think most people have good intentions, but there is a discrepancy between good intentions and actually executing on what a fair workplace should look like. And I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about helping business owners addressing it.
And I think that is so important for everyone to recognize, because you can talk to a wall.
Yes.
A lot of people, you know, when they venture into entrepreneurialism, they don't realize all of a sudden that they're in sales. You know, it's very much an active sales role. And for you, that comes very naturally. What would you advise people that maybe struggle with that a little bit?
Yeah. I'm not perfect. I'm learning, and I love to learn. I think that's maybe one more thing to keep in mind. If you think of that as a challenge or something that you're learning, maybe you'll be less threatening or less risky. But it's just a conversation. People are people. That's how I look at people. People are people. You're just having a conversation. And if they want to do business with you, celebrate. But if they don't, it's not personal. It's just not now. It doesn't mean not ever. You know?
Or find someone like you that will, you know, take you out to a networking event.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I know you would do that for people.
Yes, I would. I have no problem doing that. I actually love this. I was going to say sisterhood because I do hang out with a lot of women business owners, but I like brotherhood too. Looking at you, very inclusive. And I love these alliances that we can make and really just lift up everyone, not only one person. We can elevate the conversation. We can lift up all of us all at once. We just need a little bit of an alliance and strategy. So in other words, I'm not afraid of losing business to someone else. Mm-hmm. I know that there is enough business out there for all of us. And the way you go about doing that is just supporting each other, encouraging each other, and finding those opportunities.
No,
So,
it's very true. It is. It's the small business community is very much a partnership and collaboration.
Absolutely, and I love that. So,
what about, you talked about learning. So what if we talk about learnings personally and professionally? What are maybe 3 things that you've learned about yourself personally as you've made this transition that you weren't as aware of before?
So I was aware that I am a builder. I love building. So now I learned that I also need to be a finisher. And I'm learning to do that. So because you don't have the support system, or because you want to pay attention to details because it's your brand, I want to make sure that I am seeing things throughout. Mm-hmm. So I'm teaching myself to be a finisher. And what I mean by that is just starting an idea that at first might be challenging and might be outside of my comfort zone, but doing it anyway, because I see that there is value in that. Second thing is, I didn't know I love business development. I did not know that, and I really do. I enjoy having those conversations and just finding opportunities. What I'm calling business development is really just the conversations we have with people and see if there is a match, if there's something I can do for you, if there's something you can do for me. And I
didn't recognize that before.
Didn't recognize that before.
You had someone else probably doing that for you, in a sense.
Yes, so I love having those conversations. And those conversations don't have to be all about what I have to offer either. It can be about how I can help other people. But I love that process. I love being at a table. I don't know if some of you have experienced this in your career, but I remember having excellent teams. I still miss working with some of my colleagues at Principal and at DuPont. I had excellent leaders, so I had a really good professional career path in corporate America. With that said, as I mentioned before, I always felt that I was leaving money on the table. So in other words, I wasn't doing everything I could do. So now I love the fact that I can stretch myself as much as I want to. Of course, there are times that someone's going to say, I think you better take it easy. But it's just so fun to feel that there is no cap. The sky is the limit. And I feel so encouraged when I do that. And I try to live up to that.
Has your mission and vision changed from day one when you started Schabel Solutions? to today?
Not quite yet, but I foresee it changing. I don't think it has changed much because it's been such a short period of time at this point. But I know now more than I knew back
18
then.
months ago, or?
18 months ago. So I know that the way I get to continue to fulfill my vision will be different from the way I thought I would do in the beginning.
What about I know part of your learning curve is Claudia's done such a nice job experimenting with different marketing techniques. So would you like to talk maybe a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure.
How marketing wasn't your background, so how did you kind of get up to speed on the topic in general and knowing that that's a big part of business development as well?
Yes, so I learned that those emails that you get in your inbox that are super annoying are essential to business owners. Yes, that was a very hard pill to swallow, let me tell you, because I value the business and I value the communication, but I don't want to receive an email every day. So I'm still trying to learn why that is important. And a part of that process is building my mailing list, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm all about offering content and value. I don't want to send you an email if there's nothing for you to take and apply and take a nugget out of it. So I'm not quite there yet, but the first step towards that direction was to have the online interview series that I mentioned with people that I look up to, people that have inspired my work, that have educated me on many dimensions of the workplace, workforce development, diversity and inclusion, leadership. And I put this interview series in place.
And if I remember correctly, you just sort of called them.
Yes.
Hadn't had a relationship with them.
No.
Just called and said,
I just called them.
Here's who I am.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I emailed and called them and said, would you be willing to be on this interview series that I'm putting together? It's going to be free of charge, and the purpose is really to give this information to whoever wants to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so I interviewed 10 of those leaders, and
who obviously all said yes.
They all said yes.
Yep.
Yes. Some people said no, but not now. They didn't say not,
yeah,
don't call me ever again. So, and that was also encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
And I interviewed them for about 35 to 40 minutes.
So how did you do that?
Yes.
Because they're scattered
Sure
throughout,
thing.
right?
They are. There's one of those speakers in Europe, one in Canada, others all over the U.S. So it's over Zoom. Zoom is a platform that maybe some of you are familiar with. And then it's a video call, and you can record it right there and then. You just prepare yourself to be on camera and ask questions, if you know what I mean. And that was also a learning curve, right? Because I hate watching myself. I'm not going to watch this video ever. So, and so having to watch yourself, have to, look what worked, what didn't work. That was also a learning curve. But then once that series was all said and done, I then made available to the public, and I was able to build a pretty good list because people were interested in what I had to offer.
Because they had to enter their email address, right?
Remember when people offer you free things and then you have to enter your name and your email address? Yes, I was doing that. And I apologize, but I hope you got something out of it. So I'm learning all of those things right now, and even though sometimes I'm not 100% comfortable, I'm willing to try it and see if it's something I want to continue to do it. And then
other things.
There are other things. I also did some of the postcards that you see here, because I noticed that when I go to some places and I am speaking publicly, then I can collect their information as well. But you have to give them something for free, something back. And I am all about giving, absolutely. I actually prefer to do that. So that's one way of capturing people's information, but also giving some education out if they're interested, only if you're interested.
Well, social media is always a hot topic among business owners, and you engage with LinkedIn is
Yes.
a primary channel for you.
Yes.
Do you see benefits when you're working within LinkedIn and connecting with people in that
Yes.
manner?
So let me be very transparent with you. I'm not social on social media.
You're a taker, not a giver?
I am. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I haven't found that balance yet. So I'm super boring on social media. I hardly have a presence, and that's why I hired a person who has the experience and can help me. But LinkedIn is my preferred platform.
Channel.
Yeah, for sure. And once in a while, I put something out there. I follow someone. But more importantly, I do connect with a lot of people, and we have a lot of communication via LinkedIn. So I have found LinkedIn to be very beneficial. Do I leverage to its whole potential? Not at all, not even a fraction. Facebook don't even get me started. It's even worse. I know that there is a Facebook event happening here next week. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Well,
We'll tell you about it.
yeah, Amy will tell you about it. So I'm going to that event next week just to learn more because I need some of that.
Okay, these go by so quickly, and we want to allow some time for Q&A,
Yes.
but a couple more questions.
Sure.
What do you enjoy the most about owning your own business, and what maybe do you find, I don't want to say enjoy the least, but just maybe find the most challenging?
Challenging. Ooh, I think that what I enjoy the most is just feeling that I am living on purpose. I am fulfilling this vision that I have for myself, that I have for my community, and I feel that I have a purpose. I feel that I am really living up to my potential and having stretch goals for myself and my business. What I find challenging at times is pacing myself. I feel that I drive myself really hard and really quickly, so I have to watch that. So that has been a little bit of a challenge. Yeah.
What was when you started your business, if we stay on the topic of challenges, was there ever one specific instance that you had where you thought, man, I don't know if this was the right decision? Or have you just been riding high with this the whole time?
Yeah, no, never actually.
No.
Never look back. Once I jump, I jump.
And confidence
Yeah.
is so important, though, too.
Yes, absolutely.
To not doubt yourself.
Yes. Once I jump, and I don't look back. I only look forward. And again, it's part of my personality, maybe, but I'm an optimist, so I'm always thinking things will work out. And I do, of course, due diligence, so I ensure that it works out. But if there is a little bit of a hiccup, it's, you just have to pick yourself up and move forward. I know that sounds easier said than done, but once you're in that situation, you will know that there is no other choice other than just moving forward. So.
And I was going to ask you sort of in closing some words of wisdom, and that's certainly one of them. Pick yourself up and keep going.
I was going to say there is no wisdom here.
What about resources? You brought some of your favorite books today.
So yes, if I may,
Yes.
When I go to talks or I hear people sharing their experiences, I love when I can get out of that meeting and reference a piece of an article or a piece of something that they came across. So I remember going to a conference and picking up this book. I bought this book, and I think this book helped me because it started to help me question, what do I want to do next? And it says, ask for it, how women can use the power of negotiation to get what they really want. It's not only about getting the salary you want, it's really questioning what you want to do. This was the first book I read. And then I read, I love Adam Grant, Originals. It's how nonconformists think about ideas and how they come up with an idea, but they might not be the first one to launch. And I used to think that if you want to be successful in business, you always have to be the first one to launch, the first one in the market. And Adam Grant did some research saying that not necessarily, and you don't have to quit your job either. So he has some case studies. I'm not going to speak on behalf of Adam Grant because I can't paraphrase very well.
You could just call him and ask him for an interview series.
But that was inspiring to me because it was a mind shift, right? Because I thought you needed to be edgy, you needed to be brave from the get-go. And he has case studies here of big, successful companies that some people started their companies without having to quit their jobs. And then, last but not least, I decided that I was ready for really a serious conversation about how to become my own boss. And this was the book that I bought. And it's a very easy to read book. And I thought there was some really key information when it comes to financing your business. So it became a bit more realistic for me to think about those terms. How do I finance this endeavor from now on?
And what stage of your journey did you read this one? Was this after you were already out on your own?
No, all before starting, yeah.
So it was a big part of your learning process.
Yes, it was.
And a motivator.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank
so
you, Amy.
much. I feel like there's so much more we could talk about, but we definitely want to allow time for some Q&A as well.
They may have questions.
We'll give you a minute to think about it.
Come on, did I bore you to death?
Okay. Hold on. I'll come back.
So you talked about paying people what they're worth. And I wondered, and I came in a few minutes late, I'm sorry, so hopefully I didn't miss you sharing, but I wondered if you already had the finances saved or how you had the funds to generate to pay for subcontractors or people you hired out.
Yes, I gave myself a loan from my personal funds. But the money that I was counting on was the money that was coming in. So I was generating funds, and I was reinvesting those funds by paying people that would do the work that I need to have done.
I'm just curious, what was your role at Principal and at DuPont? What is it that you did prior?
Sure. Yeah, I worked in human resources, and I did exactly what I'm doing now. I worked with strategies around attraction, retention of talent, worked around strategies on how to build an inclusive environment. So worked for Principal for 5 years in that role, and then DuPont 5.5 years, and prior to that to a nonprofit organization that focused on cross-cultural understanding. Yeah, so it wasn't much of a transition in terms of expertise, because I feel that I'm continuing to tap that knowledge and things that I actually applied and was able to see if it succeeded or failed. And that experience to me is what has encouraged me to stay in business, because it gives me the credibility but also the confidence to do what I do.
Claudia, can you talk about those of us that are self-employed like you and I, there's a number of them here, the process you went through to decide, do I have a home office or do I have an office away from? And what were the issues and the costs and the emotion behind that? Because there is. Can you speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. So for me, at first I thought I do not want to work at home. I want to get up in the morning, go somewhere, and have that division of space so my mind wouldn't be focusing on how the kitchen floor is looking at this certain time in the morning. But quickly found out that there was so much more financial rewards for actually having a home office in terms of tax abatement and all of those things that I didn't know about. So I decided to stay with the home office, and I changed my habits though. In the beginning, I didn't have this regular rhythm. Now I do. I'm much more disciplined to be in my office, to do certain things in the morning. I also found out that that hour that you spend in the morning getting ready to go to work, I'm already at my computer. So I do so much more without having to brush my hair. Oh my God. So it's been liberating, actually, to do that and be productive. I used to go to the gym early in the morning because that was my pace. Now I change things around. I do work in the morning, and then mid-morning I go to the gym. So it's just changing the way I do things has helped find that balance. As I mentioned in the beginning, I used to be lonely, but now with all of my engagements, all of my activities, there's no loneliness. Yeah. So I hope I answered your question, Kevin.
Hello, Claudia.
Yes, hello.
And congratulations, because I think like most of us here know that being a small business owner, you want to save money. So you try to do a little bit of everything. You want to build your own website. You want to do your own marketing. And it took, a lot of us took us a lot longer to realize, you know what, I better hire the professionals that know how to do it. So it didn't take you that long to figure that out. So congratulations on that. My question is, what do you think now is going to be your biggest challenge to get your business thriving?
Yes, good question.
Unknown.
To me, I have an idea, but it's to build a bench. So what I mean by that is getting people with similar skill sets that can do what I do now. That will be the biggest challenge for me.
So you're not the only one.
So I'm not the only one facilitating the conversations, consulting, facilitating the strategy, the design, the implementation, and all of that. So building a bench, I think, will be the next challenge. But I'm ready.
Well, thank you all
you
so
so
much.
much for
Take a few
coming.
minutes and a card too, if you do want to get on that email list, right? Oh, thank you. There are evaluation forms in front of you all. So we really, really welcome your feedback on this series and what you're hearing, any additional topics of interest that you might want to hear about in the future as well. Really appreciate that. You can even just leave those right on the table. And I can't recall if I mentioned our first Friday series in July is technically not the first Friday, it's the second Friday because of the 4th of July holiday. And that will be with Susan Watts of Olson Larson Galleries in Valley Junction. And Susan's here today as well, so join us. And if you have any questions for Claudia or for Christina or for myself about some of the programs and ways to engage, please feel free to bend our ears. Thank you.
We're not recording anymore.
Oh, you can't guarantee.